Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel, and today I'm going to be taking a question from one of you guys, something that you sent me and you wanted to know the answer to, and that is, should I let my child pick out their pet? In this case, obviously, because I'm a cat mom, somebody was reaching out to me to find out if they should let their child pick out their first cat, and this is my response. So it depends on the type of parent you're going to be, your home environment, and exactly what you want as a parent out of the pet. Now, it is very likely that the pet will become your full responsibility no matter what you happen to be telling yourself at the moment, okay? So there is a chance that you are going to be responsible for taking care of this animal because your child either isn't old enough, says they're going to do it, and then just forgets, or gets busy and doesn't have time for the pet, okay? That does happen. That doesn't mean your kid doesn't love the child. It just means, you know your kid better than I do. How responsible is your child? If it's not responsible, then chances are you're going to be the one feeding and watering and changing the litter box of the kitty. So it kind of depends on you. It kind of depends on your child. And if you're the type of parent that has a certain list of things that they need out of an animal, or you're very, I don't want to say anal, but like type A, which is me. I'm very type A. I like a certain way to do things and everything needs to be done a certain way. I would say if that is the type of pet parent you are, then maybe you really need to pick out the pet for your child, because when you give the child the responsibility to pick out the pet, you are saying okay to whatever they pick out. And like the most heartbreaking thing I can imagine as a parent is your child falling in love with an animal that you don't want, because once it falls in love with it, like that's game over. Now you're getting the eyes and the tears and the drama, and it's like, oh my goodness, you really got more than you bargained for. So if you are okay with whatever cat your child picks out, and you're going to bring it home and be responsible for it, no matter what it might need, then of course, let your child pick it out. If you're like, Carla, heck no, I'm not going to do that. I need to make sure there are qualifications, okay, that for my house or whatever, okay, then I suggest you pick out the animal and bring it home to the child. However, if you're like, I love my kid and I want them to have the most special moment ever, then I suggest you let your kid pick out its own pet, or in this case, its own cat. I will never forget picking out my first cat and how much I loved it. And then that cat had kittens, and I kept 2 kittens from that litter, and I fell in love with them. I had one of those cats that I had when I was in elementary school. I had all the way up until I graduated for college, and then years after that. It lived to be 23 years old. It was with me at the time the longest of anybody in my life besides my family. And I just loved them. And it was really a special bonding moment for me. And I felt like they were mine. And what a wonderful gift that you could give to your child to allow them to pick out their first pet. And it really is a special moment. It teaches your kids to love. It teaches them responsibility, even though it may be hard on you as a parent to enforce that. It does teach them responsibility and how to take care of something. So I 100% believe that is important. However, I'm a big believer in adopting, not shopping for a pet. There's a bunch of different reasons why you probably just want to go down to your local shelter or cat cafe and pick out a cat. And the reason for that is breeds, number one, cost money. And if you've never owned a cat before, maybe you don't know this, but cats have to go to the vet every year. They need to go to the vet and at least be looked at, because cats are very good at hiding their pain. And so you might not know that there was something going on with your animal, because cats, that's just one of their defense mechanisms. So I think it's important to get them checked out by the vet. If something happens to be wrong, that's going to cost you money. If you spend all of your pet money on the actual breed itself, and then because it is a breed, it has an issue, you may not have the money to support that. There are certain breeds that carry higher risk for certain different disorders, and that might be something that you have to come out of pocket in. So I think it's just much better to go down to your local shelter and to adopt a beautiful cat or a kitten that your family can fall in love with. Number one, they just don't necessarily have the gene pool issues that some of the breed cats might. And sometimes this is not true for all breeders. I don't want to put this label on all breeders, but there are breeders who are not good people. And it's very hard to decide which is a good person from which is not a good person, because a bad person isn't going to look like a bad breeder. They're not going to take you in and you be like, oh, aghast by what you see. No, they're going to shine it up and make it look like it's a nice person, even though it isn't. So I would say, stay away from that, because you could be giving money to somebody who's going to potentially just be mean to animals, and that kind of sucks. And there's so many animals that need good homes, so many cats that need good homes. And I just feel like there's just not a lot of animals that love you like shelter animals. Like, shelter animals need love. They need somebody to take care of them. They've never had that. I mean, maybe you did get your animal from a great cat breeder, and that cat breeder, made money and loved him up and treated him right. Well, there's a little kitty somewhere that nobody does love. So I think that's such a wonderful thing for you to be able to do. Not that I'm saying don't buy breeded cats. I just think the first place you should stop is your local shelter and see if someone happens to catch your eye and happens to fall in love with, because some of those places are kill shelters, and those kitties are going to their death if they don't find a home, which is just all in itself terrible. But here's the thing with going and letting your kid go to a shelter or to a cat cafe to pick out a cat. You may be thinking, we're getting a kitten, and they may decide that they want a 15-year-old cat. Okay, an older cat, which is going to have different health issues than a kitten. Or you might be thinking, we'll get them an older cat, because older cats are a little less high maintenance. Not that they're not as high maintenance as kittens, but it's the difference. I say kittens and adult cats are the difference in having a toddler. A kitten would be like a toddler that you have given a 6-pack of Mountain Dew and Pixie Sticks to, and an old cat is just a toddler without the Mountain Dew and Pixie Sticks. So that's the literal difference, but there is an energy level between baby kittens and older cats. So you might be thinking, oh, I want an older cat, I don't really want a kitten. And your kid goes to the shelter and falls in love with a kitten, and now you have a kitten. Which is why I say, if you are going to let your child pick out their pet, make sure you are okay with whatever they pick out, and you have decided, if I have to take responsibility for this cat, if I have to take responsibility for its medical bills, if I have to take responsibility for whatever, as the parent, as the adult, I will step up and do that, because I want to give my child this beautiful experience of being able to fall in love and connect with this animal and take them home, which I really do believe is what happens when you go into a shelter or where you go in somewhere. I think you just connect with an animal. And for a child to be able to do that, because they're so young and they're so beautiful and they're unjaded by the world and they hadn't had to pay bills and they hadn't had to deal with life yet, that love is just so pure and so beautiful. It's one of the most amazing gifts you could give to your child. I will say there are some things that you can do if you go that route to make the cat fall in love with your kid. Number one thing is feeding your cat multiple times a day, okay? Multiple times, not just one time, because you want to feed them wet food. Wet food tends to dry out unless you have some kind of automatic feeder that closes it up. But even if you are going to feed them wet food just one time a day and you have a fancy feeder and all this stuff, I would still say feed them multiple times a day, because here's the kicker. Cats love people that take care of them. They recognize that and they're like, oh, you're feeding me, I'm hungry, now I'm not hungry, I love you. Okay, so feeding them multiple times a day means they have to come to you to rely on you to be fed. And every time you feed them and they're not hungry anymore, they're like, I love her so much, she's going to feed me. Okay, so being able to give that responsibility to your child means that that animal will connect, hey, the way that I survive, the way that I eat is through this human being. So I'm going to love that human being. I can't tell you how my cats follow me around. They're like literally worship me because they know right before it's time to eat. And they turn out the cutest, like, and they put their little face all over me and they want to rub their little hand up under my head. Like, they're the cutest things in the world right before they get fed, okay? Because a lot of cats are food motivated, and so they're showing off, and they're like, hey mom, love you so much. And I was like, oh, I can get all the snuggles and all the loves and all the kisses I want right now without any, I don't like that, get away from me mom vibe from my cat, because they're excited about eating. So that is one little hack. If you do happen to pick up the cat and bring it home, there is a way to make that cat love your kid, but they have to be the one responsible. If you're feeding the cat, now if maybe your cat's too little, your kid's too little to like actually open the cat food or prepare it or whatever, so you prepare it and you call the child over to actually hand the food to the kid, okay? That is a very important bonding experience, and if you are the one in charge of that, then that cat is going to bond to you. It may not bond to your child. And if it's a finicky cat that decides it only really wants to like one person, that's going to be an issue if that one person is you, but your cat is supposed to love your kid, okay? Because it may run away and hide, especially if you have a kid that's super aggressive. And I will say this too, so important to teach your children to be nice to your cat, because if you don't, it will be traumatic for the cat and the cat will start to hate your child. And that is when you have an issue, and that is why so many cats end back up in shelters, because they're mean to my kid. The cat's not mean to your kid, okay? It's not it. The cat is not feeling your child because your child doesn't understand how to relate to the cat, okay? So that's very, very important, soft touches, don't pull the kitty's tail, don't pull its whiskers, and their tail and their whiskers are super sensitive, okay? So you need to explain that to your child. It would literally be like, I guess the closest thing I can tell you to a human is like if you've ever pulled a nose hair out and like your eye, it tears up and there's snot and things happen and you're like, oh my God, this is painful. That's what it's like when you mess with the cat's whiskers. Like there's like tons of things happening in there. Okay, so they don't want to do that. I mean, they can't pet them. They just don't want to pull on them and yank on them and yank on their tail and soft love. Soft kisses. And I wouldn't advise your child in putting its face near a cat until it has an established relationship. Now, I can lay all over my cats and like snuggle all over and put my face all down, but that took time. That took building a relationship. My cats are obsessed and in love with me. And when that happens, the dynamic between you and a cat changes, and it will be that way for your kids. That if the cat is getting the impression that your kid hates them and is hurting them, they're going to either attack or run away, which is not what you want. So just make sure that you teach your kid, be nice to kitty, be good to kitty. This is how we treat the kitty. It's a baby. The same way you would if you had an infant. You wouldn't let your child smack an infant in the face, okay? Or yank on an infant's ear, or yank on an infant's toe, or anything. You wouldn't let a child do that to an infant. So don't allow that to happen to your cat, especially not if it's a kitten, it's a baby. If it's an adult cat, imagine how annoying it is. And this is something from my childhood, so this might be, random information for you guys. But when I was little, I have an older brother, and the way that I would get like back at him, because he's so much taller than me, is and I couldn't do anything because he's bigger than me, and I was like tiny. When I graduated high school, I was like 99 pounds soaking wet. And so the way that I would get back at him is I'd wait till he sat down and I would grab onto his ear and pull it and not let go for like all the money in the world. And his ears used to be just blood red from where I'd yank on, because that was like my only defense. And he would like wrestle and toss me around because he's bigger than me. And so, that's the kind of thing that kids do with each other. You don't want that experience with a pet, because a pet can't communicate, Mom, she pulled my ear, Mom, you know, make them leave me alone or whatever. A cat can't communicate that. So you need to make sure that you watch that with your child and just explain. But as long as you do that and you let your cat feed the cat, you should have a very positive experience with cats. They're amazing pets. I think, obviously, I'm a cat mom. Dog moms, don't hit me in these comments, okay? Because this is just my feelings. I think cats are the most awesome pets. I think they're better than any pet out there. And one of the reasons why is because you have to earn their love. You have to show up, and they love you in this insane, crazy, odd way that you just can't explain and you can't get from any other animal. When a cat truly loves you, it's totally a different ball game than any other pet. And dog owners may disagree, but they're wrong. So I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope if you're trying to make the decision on whether you should let your kid pick out their pet or not, that this helped you make the right decision for you. Again, I think it's personal, and I think you should go with whatever you as the parent makes you comfortable and what you know about your child. But I hope this video will help you decide that very difficult decision. And I hope you have the most wonderful experience with your new pet. Thanks for checking out this video. If you liked it, make sure you give it a thumbs up. And if you want more content from me, make sure you subscribe. If you got questions, drop them below. You never know, I might do a video just for you to answer them. And until I see you guys over on the next video, remember to keep living your most perfect life.